Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Today you will see on my first slide, those are the topics that we will be covering today. The most important thing for me today is what we need to achieve is, what I've seen, and especially when you're doing your BTech and you do some research projects, then people are so much, when they start writing, their project, there's so much focus on the theory. There's almost giving the textbook back to you. And as master students, that's not what we expect from you. What we expect from you is the implementation of those theories. And that's why I'm going to try and concentrate more on the implementation or the application of those different theories that we learned of. So I will, in some cases, give you the theory, but also try and explain how to implement it. Because, please, we know the textbook. You are going to write your proposal, because I think that's the main outcome of this bridging modules. And you will also see the way it is structured is that when the content that we're covering in these bridging modules, the different bridging modules, should help you and assist you to complete your research proposal. I will even try to explain the whole process, how you go about, getting to the end of the proposal until it has been approved and you are ready to go with your research project. So just bear with me. There are a number of things that we will be covering, but as I said, this is an important part that you need to understand. And like I said, don't give me the textbook. If I didn't know the textbook, I shouldn't have stand here. I know the textbook. Sometimes you want to tell me what is quantitative research and qualitative research and all those kind of things. If you use that as an argument, the reason why you selected the one and not the other one, that's still fine. But please don't try and just show me that you know what it really is, because that's not the purpose. The purpose is to start arguments on why are you selecting, even the methodology that you will follow. Why are you following that methodology? Those are the arguments that we want to see in your research paper or your proposal for this first 6 months. Okay, the learning outcomes that we want to cover for this session is, I'll explain to you the high-level process of registering your research topic. What is the processes? You've already started with the process, just to show you also where are you in the process at this point in time, because if you don't know where you are, then you're lost. So it's important that you know where you are and also where we are going and what route we're going to take to get to the end, to the objective where we really want to be. Because if you have all of that, then you can't be lost. Then you know exactly where you are. And then, what is research? Normally when we start the BTech, I tell the students that you better concentrate on this part, because going forward, this is the part that you will need. And this is where you sit today, is research. This is the part that you need to understand and need to know how to do it. So we will discuss a little bit on research. You can even give me your inputs on that. And the reason why do research? Why is research needed? Sometimes it feels so painful, when you sit where you are sitting now. Why should I go through all of this? So let's just cover why we need to do that. And then differences between the proposal and your chapter 1 of your dissertation. Some people normally say, you know what, once I'm done with my proposal, I'm sort of done with my chapter 1. There are some differences. So we need to understand those differences. Yes, it will contribute a lot to your chapter 1. But I've seen people just plunking in this part in the dissertation, and then the first thing that you pick up that it was never revisited is the tenses that you're using. When you do the proposal, you're still going to do this research, and when you're done, then you've already done the research. So when you look at the tenses, it's normally different than the rest of the dissertation. How to formulate the research topic. I think this is a very challenging one, and I wish I could do it for you, but unfortunately, you know, when you were going through these interviews, you were criticized on this. So maybe it's a good thing to approach this for a more negative part, to tell you not to do what not to do in terms of the topic. And then how to formulate an abstract, because an abstract you will need when you do your full dissertation, and sometimes people don't understand what needs to be included there. So I thought, it's not part of what I should actually discuss, but I thought while we are there, let's not leave out this part. Let's just tell people what they should include into the abstract. Then the next outcome is how to formulate the research problem, the problem statement. How do we get to that? And then the next outcome is how to formulate research questions. And what we will tell each other, how important it is that there is always alignment between all of these. And then the objectives, just some things to remember when you are setting up your objectives, and how to do a literature review. Now last week when I was very early for this class, I heard that Prof Ruth has also covered some of that. So, but what I will concentrate on today is not on the theoretical part, it's more on how do you implement this? Because that's the point where you are. Think at your BTech or your undergraduate studies, you've done enough on all these theories. You most probably wrote an exam on this. Time has come now to implement this. And how do we implement this? This is the question. Okay, we start with a high-level process, just to show you where you are at this point in time, what was covered already and what still needs to be covered, so that you have an idea, you know, what is still lying ahead of you. And sometimes it's good, then you can do proper planning. And this is only for this semester. Remember, it's not for the second semester. Second semester, this is when you will start your research project. But this is for this semester. You've already done your concept paper, those interviews that you've passed. That's why you are here, because you've passed that part. Yeah, and then after that, what we normally do in the different departments is we appoint a preliminary study panel. So if you don't know who that study panel is at this point in time, just find out. Because there is normally a supervisor, should be one, and sometimes there's also a co-supervisor that is part of this study panel that will be given to you. Okay, the breaching modules, this is where we are now. We're doing the breaching modules. And it's important, these breaching modules, if you couldn't attend the class, please look at the videos, because these classes actually prepare you and help you to do your research proposal. And like I've said earlier, is, in previous years, history has shown that that's the part, the proposal, the final proposal, that's the part that people are battling with, that students are battling with. So use the opportunity, listen to this, read more on it, so that you are prepared for your research proposal. Then before the end of the semester, there will be a draft research proposal. So you will present to us again, hey? I'm just telling you so that you know, you will have to be prepared, because your proposal, you will present to us. That's the draft proposal. It's not the final proposal. It's a draft proposal. But this is also the proposal where marks will be allocated to you for the one subject. The research proposal subject. This is the outcome, and your mark. And this is normally the one that when people are presenting this proposal in the past where people were struggling. So you will be, all those difficult questions that were asked to you before will be asked to you again. But now you will be more prepared to answer them. Okay? Are we in agreement with it? You will be prepared. Even if you don't feel prepared now, you will be prepared when time comes. And then the final research proposal, this is where you will present again to us your final proposals. So you know what, you will be good presenters when you are finished with this. So the final proposal. And you know what, that one is actually to say now you are ready to go and do the research that you're supposed to. So we prepare you very well for your research. So you shouldn't be struggling with this, because you will be so well prepared. And you know what, the inputs that you will be getting will be good inputs. So listen to what the big professors is going to tell you, because they went through this many times themselves and also with other students. Something that, and this apply more to the informatics students. How many informatics students do we have here today? You know what? That ethical clearance, I believe they have already told you about that. I just want to highlight it now. If you need to collect data from people or animals, then you will need that ethical clearance before you will be allowed to start your data collection. I just heard the other day, it's at a different university, where somebody has finished his master's, and they realized that the person never did ethical clearance. And you know what that means? What does it mean? You will actually have to start over again. You can't publish stuff like that. And you know, because remember, people were involved. And you can't publish this So that person had to do the masters over again. So this is how important it really is when you, even if you didn't receive your ethical clearance, don't try to collect any data. You'll find yourself in trouble with it. Because remember, it's also about the reputation of this university. So please, informatics students, I know the other students, but if they are from, I know in my department there's no ethical clearance because we're not allowing people to go and we do some computational stuff. So you wouldn't even touch other people or animals.
What's the department?
So, yeah, the good question. I'm in the IT department, but it doesn't mean that it's an easier way out. It's easier because you won't need the ethical clearance, but the methodology that you will have to follow, it might be quite challenging. So, but I will touch on that methodologies as well as we go along and try and tell you, the informatics people, what kind of methodologies they are using. It's not actually what I should cover today, but I'll just, because it's important to see where everything fits in. And I think Prof. Roof has already covered that. But if there's something that I repeat, don't crucify me. I didn't sit here for the whole class. You didn't allow me to sit. Yeah, the bottom line is in any case, in your presentations, you will have to confirm that will you use people or animals to collect data. And this is where you've got to be honest. Because if you need to do that, you definitely will have to submit some stuff to the ethical committee. In any case, there was a decision recently taken that even although you don't do it, you need to state there that you won't, and it will still serve there at the ethical clearance committee. So, yeah, where were we? Okay, the next one is approval of a topic and signing the final study panel. Okay, after that last presentation of your proposal, this is where we will allocate this panel, the final panel, to you. Now, if I say final study panel, it doesn't mean that, if somebody dies, then you will have to replace the person, for instance. And life is going on, and sometimes people are moving, and you need to add somebody else. But, yeah, if nothing happens, that will be the study panel that will take you through the whole research project that you embarked on. And then after that only, this is when the research project starts, that you will start collecting data, doing all those nice things that you were looking forward to. And that's the reason why you are doing your masters. Okay. On the first, what is research? What is research? What does it mean? It's a search for knowledge. You remember I told you the previous class, just sometimes look at my slides, you will see some of the answers there. Then at least you know where the answers should be when I ask you next time. And even when you're there on your own, then you know where the answers are. It's a search for knowledge. It's a process of discovering new knowledge by either discovering new facts or collecting old ones. correcting old ones. So, like I said, life is going on. The environment is changing around you all the time. So what was true before might be not true anymore. So those kind of things that you need to this is what the reason why we do some research. And research is a systematic process of collecting and analyzing information, like data, to increase our understanding of a phenomenon that we are concerned with or that we are interested in. So it's a systematic process. And I will take you through all those steps that you need to go through. There are some more detailed steps involved, but it's important that you understand the steps. And as we go along, you will learn the more detailed steps as well. Why do we do research? It's because there's a problem you have identified that cannot be solved otherwise. This is a problem that will need more scientific research processes. You're not going to do research to answer business questions, a normal business question. And this is one of the things that I often see, that people try to, because we are in business already, some of us, and you see the challenges out there in business, and then you try to just solve a normal business problem. This is a little bit more than that. Then try to see how successful was cloud computing implemented in government, because it might be not a very good topic. And I was actually want to ask you, what do you think is not a good topic? And that's one of the examples of not a good topic is that one. Then the gap you will go through, the research is about identifying the gap. I'll go through it in more detail now. Getting some research objectives to cover this gap, but for that you need some methods to put in place to get to the expected results. And then the contribution to the knowledge is the results at the end of the day, is the contribution that you will make. And this is one of the things that even if you start with your topic is possible contribution, because if there's no contribution that this study of yours will make to the body of knowledge, there's no contribution, then why bother? Why are you doing this? Maybe you're a manager in your company, then that's solving a business problem, then you can solve it there and nobody wants to know about it. You just go ahead with it. Because if you have too little technical people in your department, it's not something that you will need research on. I promise you the difference between the proposal and chapter 1, because people think when they just done, they can just put it in there. It's not that simple. Yeah. Sometimes, you will realize that as you go through writing your dissertation, you sometimes will have to revisit this part again. And that's why I don't think that it's over and done with. I'm just going to leave it here. Because the points that I want to make there is your research proposal is a document that you present to your university in order to allow to start working on your research project. That's the main objective. Your dissertation is the final output of your academic research project. So, like I said in the past, where I pick up that somebody didn't even bother revisiting it, is when the tenses are different. throughout the dissertation. The first chapter's got a different, was written in the future tense, while the rest is present tense or past tense. Okay, how to formulate a research topic. And these are some of the points that I want you to just remember when preparing your research topic. Sometimes people, some of the mistakes that I've seen students were doing is when they do the research topic, they sometimes are so broad. And yes, you can't really, there's other ways also to limit the study and focus your study. But start off with a topic that's very broad. Like for instance, the previous one that I've mentioned is adoption of cloud computing in government, which is, and I don't know why so many people, because I even remember that one because I've seen it many times, that people want to do that research. I think one of the things is when you select this topic is, number one is the adoption will be different in most probably in all departments, I don't know, in government. This is already a challenge. But the other thing is that I can see with this topic, and maybe you can convert this into a good topic, don't get me wrong. But the other thing is if you know that you will be able only to collect data from one department, how can your topic be the whole government? Then and you know what, sometimes we need to narrow this down a bit and focus it. Because if you don't focus it properly, then you will end up in a situation that your topic is not really in line with anything else in your dissertation. And that's not a good place to be in. There should be alignment throughout. So if you say in government, you sometimes need to be more specific, don't try to go to. Okay, the first point that I have on there is it should be a topic from an interest area, the first one, the second one I want to sort of combine. It should be relevant. I've seen one topic where somebody, and don't crucify me if I say this, luckily I don't think it's one of these groups, but somebody that want to do some research in analog TV, while we in a digital world already, it's done. We're not going back, right? So when you take it, maybe your grandmom will be very pleased with you when she find out that you could improve on the analog TV, but time has gone by. So it's just like when I was explaining to you the other day in cloud computing about the mainframes. It was nice days. Those days when you was walking into that data center with that mainframe, then you feel very intelligent because it's a big system that you're working on. But those times are gone. So when you select a topic, and unfortunately, that one student I had to say, you know what, you will have to move with the times. Allow me that's older to still stay in the past, but you are young, please go ahead. Things has changed. topic should be in line with your project content. This is what we said. If it's in, it shouldn't say in government and it's not really in government, or it's only in part of government. So it should be at least in line there. You will see alignment is a very important part of research, and we will even come to more examples of that. The topic should be clear. There shouldn't be, somebody is reading it, shouldn't be doubts of what is this person want to say. Remember, and this is how people actually find the research that you've done, with keywords and topics and so on, when they search for information. And now when they thought they've got really a good paper here, and then when they start reading, it's completely something different. So the topic should be clear. People should be able to understand what you want to do. And it should be researchable, it should be something that you can research. And the aim should be to solve a specific problem. And this is also one that I've picked up before, is it would be very, very nice if you could fix the whole world. Everybody will appreciate it, but it's not possible. So normally they say, when I was doing my PhD, they were telling me, one thing about a guy with a PhD is somebody that knows a lot of very little. Do you hear what I'm saying? That knows a lot of very little. Because you go narrow, but you go deep. A lot, deep, or very little, narrow. So remember that. Don't try to fix the world, because in the first instance, you will be all over. You won't be able to focus your study, because you will try, and data you will get from everywhere, and it won't make sense at the end of the day. So focus your study. Should require specific processes, methodologies to deliver results. And I think it comes back to, don't try and just solve a business problem. If this room is too small for all of you, you don't need research to be able to determine that. You can just move to a bigger one. It's easy. Okay. The research problem. And remember what I said is, from the research topic to the problem, always alignment. Your topic can't be one thing and then your research problem is something else. The points that I want to make there is, when defining the research problem, it is advisable that you select a topic or field of interest which the researcher is well experienced with and has a vast literature in. So, yes, and I think this is what we are trying to implement now at TUT, is to ask people to do their research in the area, the specialization area where you've done your undergrad, because it will help you a lot. This is not a rule, this is some advice that I'm giving you. Because if you are from computer science and you want to do a networks research project, it won't be so easy, because in the undergrad you need to at least know what a protocol is to improve on it. So it's important that you select something where you at least have knowledge in that area, that's some advice. And then you need to read a lot in that area. And that's why there should be a lot of literature available in that area so that you can read up more in that area. A topic or field where the literature clearly shows need for further studies. And you know what, this is where you pick up a lot of the gaps if you read through other people's the literature that's out there, their research papers. They normally say at the end that there's a need for this study. For instance, you've got this new way of set up a network, but you didn't consider the security part of it, so there are some room to improve on the security. And those are the things where you will pick up some of these problems, research problems, that you can use. Okay, before we move on there, I thought I did put it, I think I took out that one slide, is that, what was it now about? Oh, I forgot. Now that the slide is not there anymore. Okay, I'll get back to it most probably when I remember what I wanted to say. Okay, on the abstract. This is, I'm not going to explain this in too much detail because this is just to show you, and this is not the alpha and omega, but you know what? It's sometimes good that you have an idea when you write these things, what are expected in there. A summary of the background. You remember you will do all of this in more detail in your dissertation, so you just summarize in your abstract, because an abstract is a part of your document that people will have access to, even if you publish in journals. People will first read your abstract, and then they will buy, for those journals that are sold, they will buy this article, because now they can see what it's covering. So they use the topic and all those keywords that you normally put on to find the research that you've done. And then to read a little bit more, they will go through your abstract and they will read a little bit more on that, because that will be available to everybody. And then they will make the decision whether they want to read your research, the research that you've done, the paper. Research methodology, it's important because they will see that this is the methodology that you followed to get to the results. Tools used to address the problem, and then the expected outcome that, or the outcome of this research. Okay, then your research questions. When you are doing your proposal, from your topic, you will go to the background of the study that you will do. And there will be also motivation of the study. Before you get to your research problem statement. And this is the part that I actually missed now, is before you get there, you will do, now I keep on forgetting the part that I want to say. I don't know why, but in any case, it will flow from your topic to your research objectives, the research What's happening now? I'm getting old now. From the topic to the problem statement, and then this problem statement. When you get to your problem statement, this is where you will get the opportunity to break it down even more. And this is where the research questions is coming in, is how do you want to break up this big little thing that you need to study, is by breaking it up into the different research questions. But like I said, there should be an alignment between the problem statement and your research questions. Because if there's no alignment, then obviously you're going into the wrong direction. Okay, what do you want to know about the specific concern or issue? This is under this problem area that you study, this problem statement. Turn what you want to know and the specific concern into questions. Because normally it's not simply to just ask one research question. Sometimes there are different things. I want to move this elephant over the river on this bridge, but I need to know how wide this bridge would be. How heavy is the elephant? You know, there are different questions that will come up that will build onto this problem, the big problem statement. And this is how you will actually break it up. Ensure that the questions is answerable with more than yes and no. You don't want those questions that are just yes or no. And also we will go into more detail of that when we get to the literature review, because some of these questions will be answered from the literature review that you are doing. Check to make sure that the questions is not too broad or too narrow. So obviously you will have to look at the questions so that it actually will be not too broad to give you a lot of answers, but be no more narrow to give you specific answers, but also not too narrow that you will need a lot of these questions. Each question can be used to conclude the study. These research questions, and this is where it's also guiding you through your study, because when you get to the end of the study, it's always advisable to go back into your research questions and see whether all of these research questions were answered. And this is how you will conclude to ensure that you've actually reached the objectives that was there for the study. And the next point that we will in any case discuss with you will be the objectives. But when you get to the end, just confirm that you've answered all these questions. And throughout your study, sometimes if you feel you're not focused anymore, this is your questions that will bring you back to focus on really what you want to achieve with your research. What is a good research question? Anybody? The first point there is research questions should pinpoint exactly what you want to find out and give your work a clear focus and purpose. Like I said, it will help you to focus your study so that you don't try to fix the world, but concentrate on the area that you need to concentrate. It will help focus you. All research questions should be complex enough to develop the answer over the space of a research paper or thesis. So you know what, it should be good questions, so that at least by using scientific methods to to get to the results of these questions, and also so that you can actually write about this. You don't want to a yes or no on it. There are 3 types of questions that research projects can address. There can be more of that, but for the purpose of today is more your descriptive kind of questions. And normally, if you go into the history of the area that you research, you will make use, you will ask these kind of questions. That is more descriptive of what the history is of this area that you research in. But also something that I need to warn you about here is you should be focused by the research question. Don't try to ask research questions just for the sake of asking it. It should focus you on your topic, on your research problem, because that can derail you if you don't do it properly. I've seen in the past that students, sometimes they want to make up the words. They say, we need 1,000 words for this. Then you will just try to put everything in there that you can lay your hands on to make up the words. This is not what we want to achieve here. You need to be focused by the research questions. There are some relational kind of questions. When a study is designed to look at different relations between 2 or more variables, those is the kind of question that you will ask, is to give you the answer about what is the relationships between these 2 areas. And causal will be where the one is the result of the other one. Those kind of questions that you will ask to guide you through your study. Okay, interrelationship between your research questions and your objectives. Remember, I told you that after the research questions, you will need to come up with some objectives that you want to achieve within your research project. And once again, I want to emphasize that there should be a link, there should be alignment between them. And what I sometimes advise students is that to start off with, try to make one-on-one for your research questions and research objectives, just to be safe. It could be that you need more objectives, but you know what? If it's confusing you, please try to be one-on-one, because that's the easiest way to keep the alignment. If your supervisor tells you that, okay, you can do it a little bit different, then it will be under his guidance. But for this first proposal, first draft proposal, try not to do too many fancy things, because what is important now is that you get this methodology, lay your hand on it and make it your own for now. And then you can read more on it and you can become more smart on it. But for now is, what I'm trying to do today is to show you in practice, try this for now, so that you don't get yourself into trouble going forward. Because easily people will have one objective. 4 questions. Try to align them, and then it's easy, one-on-one. Okay, what is an objective? An objective is a goal intended to be attained, and it should be attainable. So, remember, objectives is you have this final goal that you want to, but you most probably have these different objectives that you want to follow, the one after the other. You know what, and I think I'm running ahead of my slides now, but let me just mention it now. It will help you to plan your research project. Because when you plan your research project, you need some objectives. What do I want to do first? And if literature review is not one of your first, then you're in trouble. Normally, I know I'm also a technical kind of person. You know, the nice thing is to get to the real technical stuff. And you sometimes want to run ahead of yourself. Please don't do that. Structure your questions and your objectives in such a way so that it will help you with the planning and guide you through the study. Because if you want to do some history in that field, you know, and if I say history, please don't do the whole, if I speak cloud computing, then you do everything about cloud computing. That area of cloud computing that you are researching. Look at previous research that was done there, and your questions should be like that, structured, to get the answers to what you actually want to achieve there. So the questions will guide you to your objectives. Then why develop research objectives? Okay, I think I've emphasized enough on this, is to focus the study. You need to always be focused. To organize the study in clearly defined parts and phases. This is where the planning comes in. So now you will plan. If I know this, then the next step is this. So the last step for those people that will do simulations will be then the simulations that you will do. So please don't start with that one, because you need to do some literature review first. To facilitate and develop of our research methodology and to facilitate the collection and analysis, interpretation, and utilization of data. So it will guide you also about the data that you need to collect, how to analyze it. These are the things that your questions will help you. It will guide you through all those steps. So remember that, because what I've seen in the past is that students just want, because it's a research question, so they want to put a question mark behind it. That's the objective. It shouldn't be like that. That shouldn't be the objective. It only should read like a question read. These are the things, the questions and the objectives will guide you, even in the collection of data. You know, for the informatics people, and remember I'm not from informatics though, but for the informatics people, for instance, if you want to use, whether it's more important to use a questionnaire or is it interviews and all that. The objectives should guide you through that. What will we be doing? You know, so the questions will guide you. Sampling methods that you will be using. You know, all of those things. Your questions and your objectives should guide you to get to answer all those questions. Okay, why do we formulate research objectives? Once again, to focus your study, to clearly identify variables to be measured, indicate the variable steps to be involved, establish the limits of study, because you can't change the world. Avoid collection of any data that is not strictly necessary. And this is one of the things that I've mentioned earlier is you don't want to collect data that is unnecessary. Because at the end of the day, it's a big effort for you, and you would want to put it in, and then you will confuse your whole study. Where do we find credible sources for our research papers? Why do you think those first two are in red? Because they're dangerous. Huh? They are dangerous. They are dangerous. Stay away from them as far as possible. I know that if you look at citation standards, and so on, they will even tell you that, web pages are sort of, they show you how to do it in text and also in your reference list. But I also don't want to see a proposal where there are many websites. Why do you think we don't want to use the websites? Those stuff that somebody is put on the internet, and we all are advocates of this internet, this huge resource that you can get information from, that's guiding you through life and all those kind of things. Because the difference is there were no peer reviews done on this. So I was sleeping at night and I was dreaming something up. And based on what I've learned in the past, some experience, and I just put it down there. And you reference me and you think, oh, now I'm smart. I'm writing a scientific paper here. And I'm referencing Dr. Du Plessis because, it wasn't peer reviewed. This is the problem with it. So be careful. When you have sources, what do we mean by peer reviewed? Do everybody know what peer reviewed is? Yeah, okay. If you know, then it's fine. If you don't know, put up your hand, then I'll explain it. Peer review is, remember we all have got our PhD now, our Dr. Kutsia. We all have PhDs now. And we all think whether we are smart and we will write some stuff and, research things. But how do you publish it? One of the places is you will send it to one of these international conferences or local conferences. And then people will review your work. They also has got doctorate in that very same field. So if I write something about networks, the networks people will review my work. We say peer review because we're all at the same level, so peer review. And then there's a thing that they say double blind peer review. So what it means is if I review Dr. Kutsia's paper, he doesn't know that it's me that's reviewing it, and I don't know it's his. So it's double blind. So I can't be biased because I know him. And this is what is meant by double blind. So for conferences, this is what happened. For journal papers, the same process is happening. Journal papers normally are seen as some of the best resources. If you want to make a good impression on your examiners that will examine your stuff, use journal papers. For somebody to publish in a journal is normally more difficult, Dr. Kutsia. It's more difficult there because the people, the conferences, is more that we're all there and we can speak to each other and I can present. But with journal papers, they're more strict. And they will review it. But the beauty of journal papers is obviously, and I'm actually running into my literature review now, but it's fine. You will remember this. Is that it's always recent. Because if you go into books are released and then for 2, 3, 4 years they are nothing. But your journal papers in the field that you do your research, there are quite a number of recent ones. Like you will get like last year's papers. And it's important that you have the more recent resources. And I think most probably that this was covered with you before. But you need the more recent sources. Because remember, as we are sitting here and you embark on your new research, research didn't stop out there. People are researching and more papers are published. And you don't want to redo what somebody else has already done. And you also want to know what is the new developments in this area where I want to do my study. And that is why it's so important that when we say literature review is, you can't do research without that. And I know in business it's easy because I've got some experience. Unfortunately, the problem is with experience was it peer reviewed? It's not scientifically processes that was followed to get to that. One thing that you must remember, and people sometimes are doing what examiners and supervisors, these sweeping statements that they normally refer to, where you say, for instance, people using the free internet in town gets hacked. Just that statement. Please, when you write your proposal, as some scientific researchers, this is not how you're supposed to do it. Either you prove it now, or somebody has already proved it. So you will get from your literature review, you will get everybody that has already proved this and has followed proper scientific processes to get to the answer of this. You will reference that person. And I'm not going to speak too much into referencing with you because I think there are some other areas that will also cover that. I don't know, did Prof. Ruth cover that with you? But remember that. Please get away from that because that we also get a lot. Okay. Wikipedia, no go. You don't even try. Get away from that. Like I said, there are some online scholarly databases that you can use. There are quite a number of them that you can use. Different specializations will use different databases. And if you don't know about databases in your specialization or in your area that you do research, you need to become friends with the librarians now because they can also help you. Electronic stuff is also in the library. So they will help you to get to these databases. Okay, another one that I just had to put on here, but I hope you didn't see it. Newspapers and magazines. Sometimes with the coronavirus, it's most probably one of the things that you can, if you do research in that area, that you can now take from that. But please also don't use it. It's very recent information there, but it's not peer reviewed. So you don't want to get into too much. But you're allowed to use them. Okay, and the last point that I wanted to make is you got to make friends with the library. Okay, the purpose of the literature review, I'm almost done with my presentation because some of these I've already covered. Use previous studies in the context of its contribution to understanding your research problem. So that I've already spoken about is you need to read in that field. Describe the relationship of each work to the other, to others under consideration. So what I mean with this point is that in your literature review, and maybe I must just go one step back with this one because I also picked up something in some of the people's work before, is they think if you're referencing this is literature review, you're allowed to reference somebody even if it's the motivation of your study. But your literature review has a certain objective that I want to see in there. And this is where does your little research fit into the whole body of knowledge out there? If I can't see that, then you didn't do proper literature review. Because your literature review will also guide you to the gap that exists that you want to cover with your research. And that's why it's important when you discuss, and this is also a place where people want to make up words. Okay, in my literature review, this is where I will get quite a nice number of words in there because everything about cloud computing, I'll just plunk in there. And then I will make up my words. It doesn't work like that. If you are using literature review, it should be linked to your study. So there should be arguments. Sometimes the arguments will be that, you know what, this previous algorithm that people has developed is doing this part from A to B. This is the part that it's covering. So it works fine, it do all the functions that it wants to do. This is your discussion in your literature review because you discuss now the previous literature that you went through is it should do function 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is. But memory utilization is a problem because it's very slow, for instance. And this is the part that my research will cover. You see, now it's 100% linked to your research. So don't try to bring a lot of other things in there. You know, when I read through and you look at the topic and you look at the literature review and then you wonder, where are we going? Huh? It looks we're on the way to Polokwane, but you know what? We are passing up into now towards the Northern Cape because it's not linked to your study. And I think it's a very important point that you need to make this. Don't put it there if you can't explain to me the contribution to your study. Because if you can't explain it, some other people are doing, for instance, you've got this algorithm and you've got that. Sorry that I'm using the IT stuff. But you've got this one and you've got this algorithm and this one do this functions and that one do that functions. But you would need to combine that. Then you will, in your literature review, it's important to discuss this part. and also this part. And then show the gap that you're filling is to combine the two. Because already when you were doing your motivation of your study, you would have already motivated that you need these two groups of functions to be in one function. So these are the kind of things that will be in your literature review. Please don't give me other stuff or give your supervisor other stuff, because they will ask you how is it related to your study. And this is how you build your study is. And you know, now your research is anchored. If I can use that word, like a boat is anchored somewhere. I see where it is in the body of knowledge out there. Reveal any gap that exists in the literature. Like I've said, resolve conflict among seemingly contradicting previous studies. Sometimes you will find studies that are contradicting each other, and then you do a study and you clear it, which I wouldn't suggest you do now for your masters. Identify areas of prior scholarships to prevent duplication of efforts. That I've also mentioned. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. That algorithm is already there. You just want to improve on it, eh? And that's the gap that you are filling. Point the way in fulfilling the need for additional research. Okay, you obviously, like other people, you will tell, you know what, I've done this whole thing, but the security part is something that somebody else should look in, because you can't fix the world. It's important to identify and to narrow down the part that you will cover. In the literature, there may be a lot of gaps, but you can't cover all of them. But it should be clear what part are you covering of that gap. Locate your own research within the context of existing literature. Like I say, it should be anchored somewhere. People should know how it fits into the body of knowledge out there. Okay, this is just a different kind of reviews that you can get. Is integrative review. What research has been done in a topic. Historical, I've also mentioned that. Sometimes the evolution of that field. If it was improved, that algorithm, over a couple of years, then you would want to. You know what, sometimes what researchers do is they will say, for the last 10 years, this is the developments that happened. And then they will reference a number of people that was part of their developments that were happening. If there are developments or if there was discussions, you can also about this field, you can also mention it. That's why the history is so important. Systematic review. I think a lot of social scientists are also using it now. It comes from the medical field. Then theoretical review, because some of these papers that you will be reading, there are some theories that, and you don't sometimes only look at the results, you also look at the theories, because you are reviewing the literature. Argumentative reviews, to approve or disapprove some of the literature that is out there, you will use that one. Importance of a good literature review is give a new interpretation of old material or combine new and old interpretations. And it also traces the intellectual progression of the field, including major debates on that topic. These are the things that the importance of literature reviews. Evaluate the sources and advise the reader on the most relevant research. This is now the reader of your dissertation or your proposal. In conclusion of a literature review, discuss the research gap being covered with your research project. And I think this is my story for today. I thank you. If there are any questions, you're welcome to ask me. I see there's a hand at the back.
I was hoping for an example of acting a good and a bad topic.
I gave you an example of a bad one. So please don't use that one that I gave you. Topics, like I said, I've explained what a topic is. It should be, and yeah, what will be now a good one? But what is important is it should be relevant stuff. Remember I mentioned that analog stuff that somebody wanted to, so it should be very relevant. And then the topic, you should be in line with what your project, what you will be doing. Because if you want to improve on algorithm, say the algorithm is an algorithm to in sensor networks that you want to do in sensor networks, then it need to be specific an algorithm to improve security in sensor networks in the health industry, or people that is suffering from heart disease, for instance. Then it's very specific. Then when people are searching for your research, then they will pick up that, you know what, this is security of data in sensor networks, and it's in the health, but you don't even need to mention health. You need with people with heart diseases. Then there can't be confusion about it. But it should say specific what you will be doing on that.